watching Fox 13, and the 10 o'clock news starts now.
It's on edge because when over 1,200 homes flood in the neighborhood, that's about 45% of the houses here. It makes you worry.
Sure does. He said it himself. Shore Acres floods on a sunny day sometimes. With a tropical system on the way, these neighbors and others around the Tampa Bay area and other low-lying areas are also preparing for high water. Good evening and welcome tonight. I'm Mark Wilson.
And I'm Allie Corey. All eyes are on the tropics tonight. Stormwater crews are preparing for high water in Tampa. They were spread out throughout the city today, clearing out storm drains ahead of this weekend. And they also have pump stations out to monitor retention ponds in low-lying areas. Homeowners in the Shore Acres community of St. Pete hope that changes made after Idalia's brush with Tampa Bay last year will work for them this weekend. They have these backflow preventers that have been placed on several streets there. And Fox 13's Evan Moon actually spent her day in Shore Acres as families prepare for that heavy rain. But we want to begin with meteorologist Nash Rhodes tonight with what we can expect, Nash.
Yeah, we're continuing to monitor potential tropical cyclone 4, which we're still anticipating to become tropical storm Debbie at some point in time over the weekend. The latest forecast advisory that just came in from the National Hurricane Center still keeps this as a potential tropical cyclone, meaning it's not quite organized yet, and at the moment it's still tracking along and just south of the southern tip there of Cuba, likely over the waters of the Caribbean. It is going to take a bit of a turn to the north and west, likely strengthening into a tropical depression as we head into Saturday, and that latest cone still brings it up to tropical storm status by Sunday. Notice though that cone includes Tampa but also extends farther to the west. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered to determine how far west or close to us this is going to track, and that'll have a big answer with the potential impacts that we could see from this system. Downrange, it looks like this is going to try and find its way toward the Carolinas or Georgia next, potentially out into those warm waters in the Atlantic where it could strengthen even more again. Closer to home, though, we are just watching this for the biggest impact, which looks like it's going to be that heavy rainfall. The rainfall accumulations coming in here from the Fox model somewhere between 4 to 8 inches. That is quite a lot in a short period of time and could lead to some flash flooding. Additionally, if this system tracks a little bit closer to us, we could start to see chances for tropical storm force winds. Additionally, we could even see some coastal flooding with the potential for some storm surge out of this. The computer models are starting to shift a little bit farther to the west with the latest update that we now have. They've shifted to the east earlier this morning and are now kind of bouncing back to the west, which is what we'd expect. We call this the windshield wiper effect as these kind of hone in on the most probable solution. We're going to continue to monitor this and give you updates, and coming up I'll let you know exactly what you can expect with if this were to shift a little bit closer to the Tampa Bay area as far as the potential for storm surge, the tropical storm force winds, and of course that rainfall. I'll have that and an update on your 7-day forecast coming up.
We can't wait. Nash, we will see you shortly. Thanks so much. Shore Acres, by the way, one of those neighborhoods in the Tampa Bay area, northeast St. Pete, that's got to worry about flooding just about every heavy rainstorm. And with a tropical disturbance on the way, neighbors who've just gotten themselves dry, gotten back on their feet after last year's hurricane season, are hoping the changes they made in their community will help them stay dry. Let's bring in Fox's Evan Moon, who's live in Shore Acres tonight with more on everything that these folks have done now to try to lessen the impacts of flooding. I know not every home over there floods, Evan, we know, but some do, and it's a problem for them.
A lot of them do, and people out in Shore Acres know you don't just wait for a hurricane. It can flood out here on a sunny day, so they are gearing up for the heavy rain this weekend. And one man actually walked me around his home and showed me all the storm preps he's making to try to stay safe this weekend. Now I want to show you, I'm standing right next to one of these new drainage pumps. There's a bunch out here in Shore Acres ahead of this weekend. It's one of their new initiatives to try to tamp down on flooding. It sends that water right back into the bay, and they're hoping to put even more out here in Shore Acres throughout the storm season. So hopefully that'll make a big difference out here, guys.
We hope so too. Evan, thanks very much. Gonna be a long weekend. Shore Acres is not the only community by far that floods regularly. There are many other people in other neighborhoods that are not messing around.
Yeah, they are preparing by getting their sandbags packed up and good to go. A steady stream of people visited the South Tampa YMCA today to get all their sandbags loaded up. Crews used some new machines to fill the bags quickly and to get people on their way. We spoke with some neighbors who say that they've had water flood into their homes before, and they just want to try to avoid that as much as possible.
Last year was pretty bad for me.
Water into my main living room, so that's not pleasant. I'm hoping to avoid it this time.
So the Clearwater Fire Department wanted to remind people that sandbags are recommended only for residents who may experiencing flooding less than 15 inches. Sandbags will not stop water completely, but can reduce the amount that goes into your home. For a list of sandbagging locations and times they are open across the Bay Area, just go to fox13news.com.
Also new tonight at 10, this story is going to show you never really know your neighbors, do you?
He was a good person. I looked at him like he was my son.
She is talking about 48-year-old Jake Powell. He's accused of murder 30 years ago when he was 17 years old. The deadly shooting happened in Tampa back in 1994, and thanks to new forensics, they believe they have their man. Fox 13's Genevieve Curtis is live outside TPD tonight with more. Hi there, Genevieve. Clearly neighbors shocked to learn about Powell's arrest, huh?
Yeah, they absolutely were, Mark. They tell me that the Jake Powell they know is not a killer harboring a 30-year-old secret, but TPD says persistent work from their detectives over the last couple of years on this cold case led them straight to Powell. And Powell is charged with first-degree murder, carjacking, robbery, and aggravated assault. Reporting live in downtown Tampa, Genevieve Curtis, Fox 13 News.
All right, Genevieve, thanks much. A former Riverview High School teacher and coach is now accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a minor. This week, the victim told investigators about their discussions with David Coffey. He was the social studies teacher at the school. Investigators say Coffey used social media to have inappropriate conversations with the victim, and they learned they'd meet to have sexual interactions. He has been with the Hillsborough County Public School System since 2015. He has coached as athletes at different levels, including varsity football, JV football, girls wrestling, and girls golf.
Well, the Florida Department of Health in several Tampa Bay counties is calling on you to donate blood if you can. They say their blood supply needs a boost after OneBlood experienced that cyber attack. That attack caused some of the company's systems to go offline, which caused delays in getting blood to hospitals that need it throughout the state. Florida's Surgeon General was on Good Day today, urging you to donate as soon as possible. Samples have a short shelf life, and the organization may need to toss some of its supply.
We've had a lot of calls from hospitals. They're very concerned. People, I think, generally are familiar with the idea of blood donations, and blood has a limited shelf life, and platelets particularly have a limited shelf life.
Yeah, it's an urgent need. OneBlood is operating manually and has asked more than 250 hospitals to activate their critical blood shortage protocols. And there is still no timeline when this system could be restored. Well, we have an update now on the fight to raise teacher pay in Hillsborough County through higher taxes. The school board tells us that a court ordered the county commission to place the school's teacher pay referendum on the November ballot. Last week, the commissioners voted to delay putting it on the ballot, so the district gave the superintendent the green light to take legal action. Well, they are finally home and free from Russian control after a historic prison swap last night. Yeah,
what the Russian prisoners' first 24 hours looked like on home soil as they describe what they went through overseas. Plus this.
I felt a bad pain. I remember seeing like a flash of light in my hand.
Well, we always say when thunder roars, go indoors, but that didn't even protect this man. He was struck by lightning in his garage. We have his warning for you tonight. Well, as we get ready for a rainy and stormy weekend here in Florida, it is important to know that we are considered the lightning capital of the country. Yeah, when you hear that thunder roar, go indoors. As Fox's Denise Dillon reports, so sometimes even being in your garage can be dangerous.
And now, Fox 13 meteorologist Nash Rhodes with your Sky Tower radar forecast.
We're continuing to keep an eye on potential tropical cyclone 4, which we are still anticipating to become tropical storm Debbie over the next 48 hours or so as it emerges into the Florida Straits and then eventually the Gulf of Mexico. The latest infrared satellite imagery showing a slightly more organized system, but still fairly sloppy. You can see some banding features here as that center is just on the southern edge of Cuba right now. And the latest forecast advisory still keeping this as a potential tropical cyclone, which they just do to go ahead and initiate watches and warnings out ahead of this system. Right now, as this is expected to push through Cuba, it is likely going to maintain that strength into tomorrow morning before emerging over the open waters of the Florida Straits where the sea surface temperatures are relatively warm. That's when it's going to have a chance to strengthen into a tropical depression. and then likely a tropical storm as it approaches the Florida peninsula. Notice that this forecast cone does have a line there in the center, but that's just kind of the consensus. Note that the center of this system can track on the west side or the east side of this and potentially even leave the cone, especially with a system with as low confidence as this, as it hasn't really gotten its act together just yet and organized into one solid area that all models agree on. Now, as we head downwind, potential landfall somewhere in central or the Florida Panhandle. It eventually tracks to the north and east toward Georgia and the Carolinas, potentially on land or potentially back out to sea, and it'll have a chance to re-strengthen in those warm waters if it were to do so there. But closer to home, let's get into the impacts that we'll likely see from this. While several of them are up in the air, depending on how close or far away from us it tracks, what we're fairly confident is the amount of moisture that this is going to drag up from Cuba with it and bring right here into central Florida. As it brings all of that deep tropical moisture to us, we're going to see our rainfall chances go up beginning in the southern extent of central Florida into tomorrow night. Those rain chances staying on the high side into Sunday and potentially into Monday's forecast as well, as this continues to strengthen just a bit more as it takes advantage of these warmer waters. Current forecast plots are likely keeping this as a tropical storm. Depending on how far west this travels, it could strengthen just a bit more than that forecast. If it pushes on land into southwest Florida, it likely won't have too much time to strengthen when it emerges from Cuba. Here are the latest rainfall accumulation plots. I'm expecting these numbers to shift and change depending on how things line up, but right now, 4 to 8 inches of rain is what the Fox model is estimating, and it typically has this system a little bit stronger than some of the other models that we've been showing. The next 5 days of rainfall really highlighting Saturday into Sunday, where Saturday evening we see those storm chances go up for areas to the south first. Sunday I've shaded in red as most of our impacts would likely be felt on that day, and then Monday as this pulls north, we'll see those impacts shift to the northern extent of Florida. So here are how our computer models are handling this tonight. We've seen a few shakeups over the past few days with this shifting far east back to the west. Earlier today, a lot of these models were centered right over Tampa, and now with the latest model runs about an hour ago, we've seen this slight jog back to the west. This will be a trend that we continue to monitor, but we would like this trend because it would lower our impacts quite a bit, especially in terms of tropical storm force winds and the potential for storm surge. The thing that we would likely still see, though, would be the heavy rainfall and the potential for flash flooding as we head into the end of this weekend. For now, tropical storm watches and warnings are in effect. The warnings in effect for southwest Florida kind of capping off in Lee County. From that point onward, we have tropical storm watches in effect that could be upgraded into warnings here over the next 24 hours. We're additionally tracking some strong winds that will be brought up with this system. You'll notice those yellows and oranges here on your screen. Those would be winds as strong as potentially a powerful tropical storm. They're just nestled off the shoreline, and what those would do, apart from the potential for wind damage, could also usher in a little bit of storm surge. For now, we are under storm surge watches up and down our coastline, and these are primarily for the chance to see storm surge between 2 to 4 feet. Some of the models are backing off on these numbers a tiny bit now that those plots are shifting back to the west, but for now, we will just continue monitoring things. Temperatures are in the low 80s and upper 70s. We had some rain a moment ago here in downtown Tampa, and since then, just light rain patches here across the region. We're going to see some of those showers and storms that are still out and about continue to track back off to the west, kind of off our shoreline. And as we head into the early hours of tomorrow morning, pop-up showers will begin by 7, 8, and 9 o'clock. Those rain chances really start to ramp up from the south, extending to the north as we head toward lunchtime, with a few strong thunderstorms into Saturday evening farther south, kind of associated with this tropical system that will be capable of potentially spinning just a little bit and producing a low-end tornado threat. We're going to continue to monitor that forecast, but as we pull up the 7-day, I will let you know that high temperatures are going to take a little bit of a dip with this system. Sunday, we drop those highs down to about 85 degrees with the highest chance of rain also coming on Sunday. And we'll be right back with more news, weather, and sports.
I'm Elise Zwick. If you're looking to beat the heat, blast off on the bay with Tampa's Bay Rocket. Boasting 2,800 horsepower with 180-degree spins, it's a thrill ride sure to make a splash. And shop at the Trop with Live Love St. Pete's 3rd annual Back to School giveaway. Elementary school students can claim their free backpack, uniform, and school supplies this Saturday from 4 to 8 p.m.
New tonight at 10, crashes like this one along 49th Street in Pinellas County happen all too often. A bicyclist died in this crash almost 1 year ago today. And now we're learning that 40% of the county's serious crashes happened along a very small number of roads, and the 49th Street corridor is one of them. Fox 13's Brianna Arredondo explains how the county plans to fix it. Coming up, a Biden administration immigration rule is halted abruptly.
We'll explain why fraud is to blame. Don't move. We'll be right back.
Fox 13 is your #1 source for news from Buccaneers training camp. So count on our team for in-depth daily coverage, including highlights, interviews with players and coaches, plus unique features. Watch for our special reports in Fox 13 newscasts.
Well, as Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan get reacclimated to life outside of a Russian prison after a little more than a year, we're learning more about the high stakes here, unseen diplomacy that led to their release. Yesterday's prisoner exchange between the U.S. and Russia and 5 other countries was really a big deal. It was the largest since the end of the Cold War. Our own Chris Cato joins us now with more. And I know the Biden administration is facing some tough questions now about the terms of this deal as we're learning more about what it took.
Yeah, you know, critics are saying that Russia may have gotten too much out of these negotiations here. You can certainly guarantee that the families of the 3 Americans who came home last night don't feel that way.
Well, you know, the economy is really a big sticking point during this year's election, and today stocks took a dive.
Can you say a faceplant? The Dow Jones dropped 600 points, all because of today's weak jobs data report. Take a look. This report showed hiring by U.S. employers slowed last month more than economists had expected, so that sent fear throughout the markets. This week, the Fed chair says they plan to cut rates now in September after passing that opportunity up last week. Some are concerned that may come too late, though. Immigration's also at top of mind, and today the Biden administration put a controversial program allowing tens of thousands of migrants from 4 nations to fly directly into the U.S. on hold. The Advanced Travel Authorization Program allows up to 30,000 nationals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to travel into the U.S. each month. They halted it because of concerns of fraud applications. Still to come tonight here at 10:30, we're going down the rabbit hole, yeah, like a real rabbit hole. On this day in history, up next, the origins of a curious tale that has interchanged generations of children and, I might say, some adults.
Keeping traffic lights working through and after a hurricane. How Sarasota is using federal money to put some intersections to the test tonight at 11.
So the White Rabbit, the Cheshire Cat, and the Mad Hatter leapt out of one man's imagination and onto the page of, well, so many of our memories on this day in history.
Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was published on August 2nd, 1865, but that was only the beginning of the adventure. Alice in Wonderland was actually one of the first stories ever put on film. In 1903, a silent movie of the story was created using special effects to show Alice growing and shrinking, and you can actually still watch it for free online. Nothing like it, Scott.
Absolutely. Love the little history behind it. All right, coming up in sports. Every April, millions tune in to watch the NFL draft. And every year, it's on the same 4-letter network. But might it soon be coming to a network near you? Say, this one. Details straight ahead. And the Rays and Astros duking it out in Houston tonight. But before the game, an unfortunate injury update on one of the Rays' everyday players. That's straight ahead in sports.
Thousands of kids all across the Bay Area can't even afford basic school supplies, let alone a backpack. So Fox 13 teamed up with Metropolitan Ministries for their Backpacks of Hope campaign. Just click on this QR code to see how you can help, or pick up a backpack or extra school supplies and drop them in bins at your local Walgreens.
Fox 13 is your #1 source for news from Buccaneers training camp. So count on our team for in-depth daily coverage, including highlights, interviews with players and coaches, plus unique features. Then join us when the Bucs kick off the new season against the Commanders, Sunday, September 8th at 4 p.m. right here on Fox 13.
Rays kicking off a 6-game road trip here tonight, starting in Houston, but without one of their big utility guys. Manager Kevin Cash saying before tonight's game that Richie Palacios is going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks after suffering a knee sprain in the last game on Wednesday night against those Marlins. Unfortunately for Hilton, they're going to have their own game for the Rowdies tomorrow night, so not going to be able to watch the game live. Rowdies out in California, and of course West Ham and Crystal Palace get going 7 o'clock Raymond James Stadium tomorrow night. Nash, we'll send it over to you.
Yeah, we got more updates, continuing to keep an eye on potential tropical cyclone 4, where right now, no big changes with the latest advisory come 8 p.m. A new advisory is on the horizon, and here in about 15 minutes, I think a new forecast cone will have some slight changes in where this could potentially head next. At the moment, sustained winds of 30 miles per hour and potentially weakening or looking a little bit more disorganized than it did here a few hours ago as it continues to travel near and over the mountainous terrain there of Cuba. But it's leaving the most mountainous part, and we'll be kind of taking a jog to the north here over the next 12 to 24 hours as it enters into the Florida Straits. Now, the waters there are relatively warm, especially for this time of year, so I would not be surprised if this strengthens into a tropical depression as we head into tomorrow afternoon. And then many of our models continue to strengthen this into a tropical storm and a medium to potentially high-end tropical storm at that, with everything varying depending on how far on the west side of this cone this travels or how far to the east, potentially making a brief landfall there on the east side of the cone. In fact, here's the brand new advisory. It's just loading in. That's why all this text is jumbled up here. But from the top, I can kind of decode here. We're still sticking with 30-mile-per-hour winds, and it looks like this is now Tropical Depression 4. It has gotten a little bit more organized as of the last advisory here, just on the south side of Cuba, and I think that might have to do with it working its way into the warmer waters there just off the southern coast. But yeah, that's a brand new update here for the advisory as of 11 p.m. Tropical Depression 4, still anticipated to strengthen into a tropical storm, and I'm not seeing any hurricane icons there, so at least that's remaining the exact same from the last advisory that we brought you. The computer models have shown a slight shift that could take it a little bit farther to the west of us, which unfortunately wouldn't change the rainfall situation too much, but could lower the amount of potential storm surge and also lower the amount of tropical storm force winds we could see from this. We're going to continue to monitor those trends, but what this means for you as we look at the 7-day forecast is a lot of rain is on the way to close out the weekend, and as we enter into the start of the upcoming work week, that rain chance continues Monday and Tuesday with perhaps some gusty winds as well and some coastal flooding that we'll need to monitor with this threat as well.
We're hanging on your every word. Nash, thanks. See you shortly. A major change could be coming to Clearwater's Duke Energy customers, why the city's thinking about creating their own utility company. We'll explain how after the break. First, Fox 13's Haley Hines with a look at what's coming up in mere moments. Top of the hour. What you got?
Hey, Mark, you know, the Summer Olympics is all about the athletes, the medals, the excitement at each event, and us sitting on our couches wondering how in the world they do that. Well, there is one pastime that many might not know about, but for those who are into this sport, they sure are caught up in the pindemonium. We're talking about pin trading, and it's a big deal on the streets of Paris. Plus this.
Does he speak Italian?
No. He doesn't speak one word
And
Italian.
she doesn't speak English?
Zero.
And all new tonight at 11. This love story isn't about the words of affirmation because they don't even speak the same language, proving the language of love is truly universal. It's a connection that grew in the most unlikely of ways, from loss to love at first sight. We have the journey to happily ever after between a man from California and a woman from Italy, next at 11.
Well, there is a legal battle brewing in Clearwater, potentially right now. The city council recently signed off on a study looking at dumping Duke Energy while creating its own publicly owned utility. The city will pay a consulting firm $500,000 to investigate how feasible their plan is and will address risks, benefits, and costs. The power would be purchased from a third-party company and then redistributed by the city. The council wants to make sure renewing it's the best plan, but Duke's Florida president urged the council to reconsider. The city's current 30-year contract with Duke will end in December 2025, and negotiations for a new deal are expected soon. So we, of course, have some local competitors here going for gold at the Olympics.
But some others are shining here in Florida. The newest competition at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. It's good stuff, and it's
Fox 13 is proud to be the official weather partner for the Tampa Bay Rays. Whether the Rays are playing at home or on the road, knowing the Sky Tower radar forecast will always be a hit.
All right, it's time for a little good stuff, and we are all, of course, getting into the Olympics, watching the goats compete in their sports.
Like real goats. Okay. Professional goats, that
right,
is.
Yeah.
Some scuba divers, though, at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium want to get in on the action. They held their own summer games this week, doing their thing. Look at this. The dive team took gold in the artistic swimming category.
Very nice.
Yeah, we threw out the scoring. It doesn't matter. They showed off their skills, the synchronized back somersault floating. We can't forget about the old human washing machine. Wait for it. There it goes. You see it on the right? I saw
That's great.
They all tied together with a grand finale, which is the classic human pyramid.
Nicely done.
Somewhere in Wiki
Nicely
Watcher,
done.
those mermaids are smiling, saying, well done. It's not so easy, is it?
Yeah, it's hard work. Time now for the Fox 13 11 o'clock news.